So in this video I'm going to analyse Zirkzee's performance against Tottenham, but not just pointing out how good he was because anyone with eyes can do that, but also speaking about some more subtle parts of Zirkzee's game which I think he can improve to take him to that elite level. I'm then going to go through some examples throughout history of players with a similar skill set and what tactical setup they thrived in, before tactically breaking down how I think Amorim can make some amendments to the players and the roles around Zirkzee to improve the system as a whole. So what I liked about Zirkzee's performance in this game is not just that he performed well, but that you can clearly see the areas where he can improve and the impact that it will have. Let me give you an example. Here Dogu plays a forward pass splitting the Tottenham midfield line, and this is the advantage of using Zirkzee alongside a more advanced forward like Højlund, as out of picture Højlund's high positioning works to positionally pin the two Tottenham centre backs backwards, stretching the space between the midfield and defensive lines for Zirkzee to drop into. Now this isn't a criticism towards Zirkzee, well I guess it's more of a constructive criticism, as in this clip and throughout the game he was excellent at efficiently linking the play with the midfield behind him when his back was to goal. However, as you can see here, he does have the space to receive the ball on his back foot and turn, because there's no centre back who's moved with him on his back. And this is the main part of Zirkzee's game that I think will take him up a level, and it shouldn't be that hard for him to develop, as rather than just dropping the ball off to the midfield line in behind, I think Zirkzee has to start turning with the ball in this situation and looking to play forward. And to be fair, you'll see later on in the video that when he was turning and looking to play forward in the second half, he showed he can be a significant creative threat. But in this example he does well to retain possession, link play with Bruno in behind, and in all fairness early on in the game, I guess Amorim would want a more conservative style of play from his link man between the lines, just to enable United to gain a foothold in the game. But before I go any further, if you want any cheap current season or retro jerseys, go over to dragonjersey.com. I'll leave a link in the comment section and description. They've got a variety of different jerseys, and we'll have the 25-26 season jerseys when they do come out later on in the year. Out of all the jerseys, I do like this 1988 Borussia Dortmund one, as well as a 91-92 AC Milan home shirt as well. If you do want to get in touch with them and discuss any shirts, delivery times or things like that, they've got their WhatsApp and email on the site, but you can also follow their Instagram as well. So once again, I'll leave it linked in the description and the comment section in case you do want to check it out after this video. Here once again as Casemiro receives the ball, you can see that because Zirkzee has been given the freedom to roam across the pitch horizontally, rather than being confined to sitting in one of the half spaces, something I think Amorim should be given credit for, because he has slightly deviated away from the original system that we did see, where you would have those two interior forwards sitting fixed in those two half space positions. But here as Zirkzee's been given the freedom to roam, he can move into a more central area and open up that passing lane that allows Casemiro to split the Tottenham midfield line and work the ball in behind them. But once again as Zirkzee receives the ball, you can see that he doesn't have anyone on his back, and if he could get the ball under control he does have the space to turn, but nevertheless he still links play very well, knocking the ball off to Bruno Fernandes, who can now circulate the ball out wide to Dogu on United's left, and now you can see that United have progressed the ball in behind Tottenham's midfield line and have the opportunity to create a 2v1 against with Dogu and Garnacho on the left side, which all stems from Zirkzee's link play. Here we have the ball in the final third and Mazraoui flicks the ball into Zirkzee's path, and here we see how good Zirkzee is technically, as a simple pass is just to lay it off to Maguire, but this would keep the ball in front of Bergwijn with the player who's about to press Zirkzee. But instead Zirkzee floats past Bergwijn, nutmegging him in the process, and so now he's taken a Tottenham player out of the game. And from here, in hindsight, I think he should probably play this early pass into Dogu, wherefrom if Højlund gets his movement right, we could create a 3v2 or a 2v1 on the far side. But Zirkzee carries the ball on, and even here, I would say just play the pass out to Dogu, just because I know what's going to happen if you play the pass into Højlund's feet with his back to go under pressure. But it's not really the wrong option by any means. I just think that when Zirkzee gets a bit more experience, he'll start playing the most efficient pass at the optimal time, which as of yet I don't think he does enough, but he's received the ball in a congested area on the other side of the pitch and not just retained possession but also drawn in a significant amount of Tottenham players into his vicinity, and to be honest Højlund lets him down. Højlund just needs to flick the ball with his left foot into Dogu's path, wherefrom Dogu could now drive at Porro, forcing him either to back off to track Garnacho's running behind, affording Dogu the space to drive into, or move out to engage Dogu, which would then open up the space in behind for Garnacho to run into and Dogu to slide him in. But instead, as is becoming far too frequent, the ball goes into Højlund, bounces off him, and the attack breaks down. However, this brings me on to a broader point about Zirkzee, which I think goes unnoticed when discussing what he offers the team. We know that he brings the ability to link play from in front of the midfield line to in behind it, allowing United to transition the attack through the middle third. And we also know that when he plays as a false 9 in a centre forward position, his deeper movement can work to drag a centre back out of the back line and create space for runners ahead. But Zirkzee's game in general has the effect of drawing opposition players into his orbit, because his technical ability, his first touch in particular, but also his composure is so good that he doesn't rush his game and simply play the ball as soon as he gets it. Instead, as you'll see as this video goes on, he almost recognises that if he holds on to the ball for a second or two longer, that he's going to draw more players closer to him, which in turn has the effect of creating space elsewhere for his teammates. And you'll see this visually in just a minute, but first, this next clip I think is something that we need to see more from Zirkzee, and it comes with confidence, which I think in this game was at the highest it's been since his Bologna days. Dorgu plays the pass into Zirkzee on the edge of the box on the left side, and this is a difference between him and players like Garnacho and Højlund. See, even though he is receiving the ball in a congested area, with Bergvall a few steps away and Porro already on his back, he doesn't panic and drop the ball to Garnacho straight away, which certainly wouldn't have been the wrong option, but instead he has the confidence to hold on to the ball statically to draw Bergvall in, and this is where we see the intelligence of Zirkzee's game, as he understands how to move the ball and his body in order to manipulate the pressing player's position and open up the space that he wants, and he does this by faking a shot with his left, forcing Bergvall to commit over to Zirkzee's left side, which opens up the space for Zirkzee to then cut back onto his right, and now he's angled perfectly to try to guide the ball into the far corner. And even though it does go wide, you can see how when Zirkzee does improve his long range shooting, which I'm not saying is going to happen anytime soon, it could happen anytime from the next 1 to 5 seasons, he definitely has the other attributes in his locker to create these sort of shooting opportunities which he will eventually start scoring from. And this is what people don't understand about top level attackers. People say that strikers don't score because they don't get service, when in reality a lot of strikers don't create the space or the shooting opportunities for themselves, as Zirkzee was able to do here. But here we see an example of how Zirkzee draws players into his orbit. Bruno Fernandes wins a header, and as Zirkzee is receiving the ball with his back to goal and Davies is about to push out from the back line, this is the type of situation where Højlund would struggle to get the ball under control, and at best manage to win a foul. But Zirkzee deals with the bouncing ball, and this is what really impresses me about Zirkzee's game, as whilst I definitely think his pass selection could be improved, it's still very good, and he shows it here, as a lot of players would have rushed to play this pass out to United's left, where neither Garnacho or Højlund are in an optimal position to receive the ball. However, Zirkzee has the awareness to recognise that with Davies pushing out from the left side of Tottenham's back line, there is a space created to his right. And so as Zirkzee is about to knock the ball down with his left foot to Casemiro, you can see that because Davies has been drawn into Zirkzee's orbit, there is a potential for Zirkzee to lay the ball off to Casemiro and for him to then release Bruno Fernandes' forward run ahead of Davies and Zirkzee into that space that Davies has vacated. It doesn't quite materialise that way, but in the end the ball still moves into Bruno Fernandes in a dangerous position, with the Tottenham backline being drawn completely out of position and now leaving Garnacho in space on the left side, which he wouldn't have had Zirkzee just played the pass directly out to him. Here again, the loose ball falls to Zirkzee, and he shows his technical capabilities by keeping possession under pressure from all sides, with the ball stuck to his foot like Velcro, and once again he's able to play the pass into Bruno Fernandes, but just look at how many Tottenham players have been drawn into his orbit, congesting the play on that side around Zirkzee, and leaving Dorgu and Garnacho in space on the far side. However, there were a few times throughout the game where we did see Zirkzee do what I suggested at the start of the video, which is turning with the ball when the space is there, and so he definitely has the capabilities to do this. Here the ball breaks to him midway inside his own half, and this time he takes the opportunity to turn into the space, driving the attack forward, but he certainly isn't helped by Højlund's movement. Højlund has to arc his run more to his left in order to make an arcing run between Bentancur and Danso, because his body positioning is all wrong. He can't even see the ball at this point, and there isn't a clear path for Zirkzee to release him in behind. But Zirkzee very intelligently doesn't just take the chance to play a rushed through ball and hope that it reaches Højlund. Instead he holds on to the ball, once again drawing a Tottenham player towards him. Spencer left back in this example before releasing the ball at the exact right time with a nutmeg pass out to Bruno Fernandes, and now Jed Spence has been taken out of the game and Bruno can drive into the space down the right. But in the second half, this was probably my favourite moment of Zirkzee's game, and this is what we need to see more of, because linking play with his back to goal is obviously extremely valuable. If he wants to go to the next level, he's going to have to develop the sort of playmaking and chance creating ability that we see here. So he's picked up a position between the lines yet again, with Højlund's advanced positioning keeping Dan so deep. And Zirkzee's aware of the space behind him, and so this time he allows the ball to roll across his body so he can turn in one touch. And to be fair, this is a very good run from Garnacho, exactly the type of movement that Zirkzee needs ahead of him. Between the right back and centre back, and Zirkzee maybe a few months ago doesn't have the confidence or the decisiveness in his game to play this through ball, but now he's able to turn quickly and he doesn't even hesitate to play the through ball. Garnacho's touch takes it straight into his path, but he just doesn't have the acceleration to race away from Porro, and so can't quite manufacture the sort of shooting angle that he probably would like. But this was one of my favourite moves of the game, and pretty much all of United's well-built attacks did stem from Zirkzee's efficiency when linking play, and also drawing players in when he was dropping into that space between the lines. And so I think this game perfectly encapsulates Zirkzee's importance to Amorim's attack. But the question is, what tactical alterations could Amorim make to get the best out of Zirkzee and improve the system as a whole? Well, before I go on to that, let's go back and look at some of the best centre forwards of past generations who were similar to Zirkzee stylistically, in the sense that their lack of pace was more than made up by their playmaking ability. So let's start with a question: what happens when a striker doesn't have blistering pace? Do they cap out and reach a certain level, or are they able to reinvent the role entirely, become legends in their own right in this particular role? Well, the answer of course is the latter. Football is a game of nuance, and while speed is often glorified, it's certainly not the only weapon in a striker's arsenal, and players like Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Francesco Totti were two of the most iconic forwards, playing a similar sort of style to the one we see Zirkzee play for Manchester United. But what made these two so good? Well, the answer lies in their ability to, like Zirkzee, slow the game down and play at their own pace. See, when you're not relying on speed, you have to rely on something else: vision, touch, and almost a sixth sense of where your teammates are at any given time. But here's the thing, these players couldn't do it alone. They needed their teammates who understood their strengths and played to them. Take Zlatan for example. During his time at PSG, he was surrounded by quick, dynamic players like Angel Di Maria and Lucas Moura. These wingers and attacking midfielders provided the pace that Zlatan lacked, making runs beyond him and stretching defences. Zlatan in turn acted as a pivot, holding up the ball and releasing it at the perfect moment. It was a symbiotic relationship. Zlatan's brilliance unlocked their speed, and their speed unlocked his creativity. Similarly, Francesco Totti at Roma thrived in a system that emphasised fluidity and attacking football. Totti's ability to drop deep and link play was complemented by the pace of players like Mancini, Rodrigo Today and Mirko Vakinic, who made runs in behind the defence, taking advantage of Totti's deeper movement. Totti's vision and passing range allowed him to pick out these runs with pinpoint accuracy, turning what might have been a static attack into a dynamic flowing movement, despite himself not having the pace. So what's the takeaway here? If you're building a team around a striker who lacks pace but excels with their back to goal, you need to surround them with players who provide the pace. Wingers, overlapping fullbacks or wingbacks, and attacking midfielders and central midfielders who can run beyond the centre forward's deeper movement. Without them, even the most technically gifted centre forwards are going to become isolated and ineffective. But what tactical systems were these players used in? Because here's the thing, you can't just throw a player like Zlatan or Totti into any system and expect them to thrive. These players needed specific setups in order to bring out their best. But before I break down exactly how that was done, a quick reminder, I do have a Patreon. For $5 a month you can get access to the in-game Instagram group chat and my ebook for free when it is released, and for the lower tier you can just get access to my articles. I am going to be posting daily articles as well, and you can get a 7-day free trial, so if you do want to sign up to that, it would be very much appreciated, and I'll leave it linked in all the usual places, the eye above, description, comment section, and on the end screen after the video. So for Zlatan Ibrahimovic, most of the time the 4-3-3 formation was a perfect fit. At PSG, this system allowed him to operate as a lone striker, with two wingers providing the width and the pace. The midfield trio behind him usually featured a deeper line playmaker like Marco Verratti, and this ensured that Zlatan had plenty of support in the build-up play. Because of the pace around him, this setup gave Zlatan the freedom to drop deep and receive the ball, and basically become a kind of playmaker dictating the tempo of the attack. But here's where it gets interesting. Despite his size, Zlatan wasn't just a target man, he was a complete forward, capable of scoring from almost any position, whilst as I was saying with Zirkzee, he was also able to receive the ball, turn and drive forward into the space. And this meant that defences couldn't just sit back and wait for him to receive the ball, they had to press him, which created space for his teammates to exploit. Zlatan as a centre forward was a master in positional manipulation, and it's why Zlatan was so effective in this system. Totti on the other hand thrived in a variety of different roles and systems, but he was often deployed in a 4-2-3-1 system, where he operated as a kind of trequartista, a hybrid between a striker and an attacking midfielder, and this role allowed him to drop deep and link play, whilst also giving him the freedom to drift wide and create overloads when needed. Roma's system was built around Totti's ability to read the game, and make the right decision at the right time. But crucially, here's the key. Both Zlatan and Totti were given the freedom to roam. They weren't confined to a specific area of the pitch, instead they were encouraged to drop deep, drift wide and find pockets of space where they could influence the game. And this freedom was crucial to their success, and it's something that I think Amorim could use with Zirkzee. But it's not just about the role that Zirkzee's given, but also the roles of the players behind him. So how could Amorim get the best out of not just Zirkzee, but the system as a whole? So in the build-up phase, I think Amorim needs to have Zirkzee more involved, because we've seen how effective he is at receiving the ball to feet and linking play when in the middle third, and currently United struggle massively when playing out of pressure in the defensive third during the build-up phase. And I think we could do this by having players centrally, usually the central centre-back Maguire and Casemiro in the midfield double pivot, pulling slightly wider away from that area, which you could do with Maguire just dropping into the right-sided centre-back position inside of the box, which would then allow Mazraoui to pull further wide in order to drag the opposition's pressing players wider in that midfield line, stretching the space between them, looking to open up the space for Zirkzee to drop into, and allowing one of Onana or De Ligt or whoever it is to split the midfield line with a direct pass into Zirkzee's feet, where from even with pressure on his back, Zirkzee has the capabilities of linking play, but also from here if you have players like Bruno Fernandes, Dorgu and Dalot moving early to spin off their pressers, you've got the forward movement to take advantage of the space created by Zirkzee's deeper movement. And this is something we already see United do in the middle third. We would just need to adjust the possession shape and build up in order to open up those passing lanes into Zirkzee's feet to allow us to bypass the press. But also in the middle third, especially against the back four, I think switching Zirkzee to the left side and even putting Garnacho on the right would work a lot better than with Garnacho on the left and Zirkzee on the right, because now on the left side United would have an overload against the back line, but crucially on the left side you could have Højlund looking to spin in behind the opposition's right-sided centre-back and Dorgu behind Zirkzee making an early run down the line, which is going to drag the right back and centre back on that side deeper and stopping them being able to push on to Zirkzee when he receives the ball in this half space area. And so it really isn't anything too complicated, you just need players around Zirkzee running ahead of him in order to stop the opposition's back line being able to move out onto him, and then also providing him with the options to find runners in behind when he is able to control the ball and turn, just because I think Dorgu's a much better outlet for him to find than Dalot on the other side. And I'd also like to see Amorim continue to give Zirkzee more of a free role in the middle third, as we did see in the game against Tottenham, as you want Zirkzee involved in play as much as possible, and so when the ball is on the right side, rather than having Zirkzee hold a position in the left-sided half space in a strict positional play kind of setup, and Garnacho being the one to drop towards the ball, looking to receive the ball to feet, I think it's a lot more beneficial to just allow Zirkzee to drift horizontally across that corridor between the lines, where from, because he's moving in from the other side, he can be a free man and create the overload. And then with Garnacho and Højlund in the front three, you've got the runners who can create the space for him by holding that high position and looking to move him behind, and also provide him with the options when he receives the ball. And so really it's just about giving Zirkzee more freedom and trying to get him involved in the attack as much as possible from both sides, not just the side that he's situated on. So let me know what you thought of Zirkzee's performance in the comment section, and if you do want to check out any of the current season or retro jerseys, I'll leave the link to Dragon Jersey in the description and comment section below, and if you use code Atlantis at checkout you will get a 5% discount. And of course you can also sign up for my Patreon, which will be on the end screen now.